During the funeral, as the priest recited his prayers, the lid of the coffin slightly lifted. The scent that emerged from inside was not that of a corpse 3 days dead. It was the fragrance of fresh perfume, delicate, floral, almost familiar. At that moment, the funeral attendant beside me leaned closer and whispered, "Mom, I think something's wrong." When we opened the coffin, I saw that the man inside was not my son. For 3 years, I had brought flowers to his grave, knelt beside the cold marble, and whispered his name into the silence. For 3 years I had believed I knew the shape of grief, but this man, this lifeless stranger wrapped in linen, he was not my boy. As I looked at his face, my heart stopped for a brief, burning second. Not a single familiar feature remained. No trace of the smile I once knew, no warmth of the eyes that used to light up when he saw me. And yet, the scent of perfume lingered, clinging to the air, tricking my memory into believing that perhaps I did know him. The priest froze mid-prayer, his lips trembling. The funeral attendant rubbed his gloved hands together, avoiding my gaze. I couldn't move. The grief that had been carved into me for years suddenly twisted into something unrecognizable. Fear. Cold, formless, inescapable fear. I closed my eyes and was pulled backward in time, to a day when the world was still kind. My son had been in his room, arranging his toy cars in perfect lines, humming to himself. When he looked up and smiled at me, I thought I would remember that warmth forever. But memory lies, because now, when I try to recall his face, all I see is the stranger's. That night, the house felt wrong. Every shadow stretched too long, every sound echoed too sharply. The silence wasn't empty, it was watching. And then the scent returned. That same perfume, soft but impossible to ignore. I fell asleep surrounded by it. In my dream, my son was lying on his bed asleep. But his face was blurred, as if fog covered his features. The scent of perfume coiled around him, almost alive. When he opened his eyes, they were empty, bottomless voids reflecting nothing. I wanted to wake up, but I couldn't move. It wasn't a dream, it was a warning. The next day, I went to the morgue. They still couldn't identify the body. Police files, DNA results, autopsy reports, none of them made sense. Everything had been tampered with, altered or lost. It was as though the world itself wanted to erase the truth, to erase him. 3 years earlier, after his death, I had visited his grave every day. Some days I spoke to him softly, pretending he could hear me. Other days I simply left flowers and watched them wilt. I had believed that grief was devotion, that my ritual kept his memory alive. But now I understood. Every flower, every tear, every whispered word had been absorbed by something else. Not my son's spirit, but something wearing his scent. That night I dreamed again, the same room. But this time a small shadow stood in the corner. The perfume scent thickened, swirling, almost choking me. It stepped closer, and as it did, the shape began to change, until the shadow had my son's face. "Mum," it whispered. The sound echoed like a voice from underwater. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. When I awoke, I found the faint scent of perfume still lingering on my pillow. The next morning, I returned to the coffin. The funeral attendant stood there, pale and exhausted. He looked at me as though he wanted to confess something but couldn't. "Tell me the truth," I demanded. "Was this really my son?" "Ma'am," he said, eyes flicking toward the coffin. "I don't know, but something is definitely wrong." From that moment, everything began to unravel. Lights flickered in the house without cause. Objects moved, subtly at first, then violently. My phone rang at night, numbers I didn't recognize, voices I couldn't place. Each call began the fight. Same way. A soft exhale, then silence, followed by the faintest hint of perfume. One evening, as I sat by the window, the reflection in the glass shifted. It wasn't my face staring back. It was his. Not the face of my son as I remembered, but older, unfamiliar, yet wearing the same expression he had in the coffin. When I turned around, No one was there. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, he was there, reaching out from between dream and death. Sometimes he was the boy I loved. Sometimes he was the man in the coffin. Sometimes both. "Mom," he said again one night in a dream, "you must find the truth." But before I could ask what truth, the dream dissolved into perfume and darkness. Days blurred into each other. Neighbours began to whisper. They said they saw shadows in my windows late at night. They said they heard a child laughing from inside the house. But my son had been gone for 3 years. I went back to the morgue again. The body was gone. No record of it remained. Only the scent of perfume lingered in the cold air, like a mocking reminder. Then came the note. I found it one morning, slipped beneath my door. "Mom, wait. I'm here." It wasn't his handwriting, but the ink smelled of the same perfume. I began to wonder if perhaps my son had never died at all, if the body they buried had never been his. Maybe he was alive somewhere, trapped in a place between worlds, trying to reach me. Or maybe something else had taken his place, using his voice, his scent, his memories. I searched through his belongings, his toys, his school books, his old drawings. In one notebook, on the last page, he had written something years ago that I had never noticed. "If I'm gone, follow the scent." That night I did. The perfume led me outside, through the garden, past the gate, into the fog that hung low over the cemetery. The moonlight revealed the familiar shape of the grave I had visited countless times. But the headstone was cracked, and beneath the cracks I saw movement, as though the earth itself was breathing. I knelt down, trembling, pressing my hand against the cold stone. And then I heard it again. That voice. Soft, close, trembling. "Mom, finally. I'm here." At that moment, I understood. My son had never left. His body, his scent, his spirit. They had all become one with the air I breathed, the ground I walked on, the silence that surrounded me. The perfume wasn't just a smell. It was him, his essence, a bridge between worlds. I no longer needed to see his face or hear his voice. I felt him in every whisper of wind, every flicker of light, every breath that carried the faint scent of flowers. Some might say I've lost my mind. Perhaps I have. But when the night is quiet and the air smells faintly of that familiar perfume, I know my son is near, watching, waiting, and forever whispering from the veil between life and death. "Mom, I'm home."